welcome to Season 6 of How I Made It Through. As I've said before, it is often through pain and suffering that we learn our most profound lessons. It is through courageously exploring the inner landscape of our lives and seeking healing that we transform. Joining me this season is my newest co-host, Bernadette Thompson. Bernadette and I invite you to join us now twice a week as we continue to explore the extraordinary stories of those who've had near-death and spiritually transformative experiences, or are simply wise and old souls sent here to help the collective awaken and heal. Our show reminds us that death of the body does not mean death of the soul, and that indeed we do transition into the wonder of the afterlife and come back again and again and again. Our hope is that each episode will serve as inspiration for your own spiritual discovery. We thank you for joining us in this powerful learning and ask that you subscribe, comment, like, and share. Together, we can spread the growing awareness that we are all infinite souls sent to Earth School at this very unique and miraculous time in human evolution. Welcome back to How I Made It Through, and we have our returning champion, Rebecca Kastl.
Yay.
So nice to see you. So that everyone knows who Rebecca is, she is a pediatric speech language pathologist, energy healer, and angel interpreter who underwent a life-changing, spiritually transformative experience in her 20s while working on healing from childhood trauma. Her STE, spiritually transformative experience, started when she spontaneously devoted her life to God while writing in her journal. That night, she saw a beautiful light that spoke to her, after which she began seeing light inside everyone, having psychic dreams, viewing alternate timelines of her life, feeling how connected we all are, and sensing and communicating with angels. She is a former total skeptic with Christian, Jewish, and indigenous influences in her family that helped shape her understanding of her experiences. She now offers angel readings and energy healings that build on the foundation of what she saw and felt during her spiritually transformative experience.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yay, I'm so glad to be back. Hi.
I'm so happy you're
Hi
here.
there. Hi there. Yeah, I want to get started with an abbreviated version of your story so anyone can tune in to the last interview, the last episode with Rebecca, and she goes into detail, and it is a fascinating story. So I encourage people to do so. But just to get everyone else kind of the Cliff's Notes version
Okay.
of what happened.
Yeah, so I had been on a healing journey, and that was started when I was 23. I had been trying to heal from trauma that I had at 13. My therapist told me I was fine after like several years of therapy, but then at 23 I was like, I'm not fine. And I said, I'm going to heal all the way. I just remember saying that to myself. And warning, if you decide you want to heal all the way, just be prepared to have some really wild spiritual experiences because I think that's what happened to me. So on that journey, I started writing my journal, Dear God, when I had decided I wanted to heal. And I think my heart had just been so, brought to the point of the brink, really. That this one night when I was 26, to skip some parts of, skip right ahead to it, I was writing in my journal, Dear God, and I started to cry and I wrote that I wanted to devote my life to God. I wrote, Dear God, I have decided to give my life to you and whatever that entails. I want to be guided by you, by the light. This is my pledge. I will work hard to follow this path and bring it to fruition. Please help me do this. Please help me bring light to other people. Thank you. Amen. And it was like I finished my journal entry about grad school, which is where I was at the time, and then I just went to bed thinking that I got a little taken over, no big deal. But then when I went to bed, a light came over my bed, and I felt it really viscerally, like I was scared to be seen by this light because it could see into my heart, and I told it to go away. Um, but then it spoke to me and basically told me not to be afraid. And from that point on, that night when I was 26, it was January 2006. For the next 2 years, I had a lot of spiritual experiences that basically rearranged my entire life to be in alignment with this promise that I felt like I made by accident. I started seeing light coming out of everyone. I started feeling angels around me. I mean, I don't believe in any of this. I did not believe in any of this. I thought I really had lost it. I was like, I've lost my mind now. But it was like connecting me at such a deep level. I started having psychic dreams. which is one of the ways that I eventually accepted my experiences because I couldn't deny that I was having dreams that were later happening. Nothing big, nothing about the world. They were about my friends. They're about little things that were going to happen to me. Um, so I saw alternate timeline of my life. I had a mini life review where I felt how all of my actions viscerally really affected other people. And basically, it went on for 2 years. And then it ended when I had a beautiful dream with this angel who was really glowing and really beautiful. And basically, I I thought I was going to meet him in real life. I joked that I really did think he was going to be my boyfriend. This is like not a joke because he was so beautiful. We were talking about life, and I was having all these spiritual experiences. And he was like, I was like, when am I going to meet you? And he said, you'll meet me when you finish swimming. He was basically telling me to have a great life, have adventures. And I was really just, he was just so loving, seeing into my heart. And
Mm.
then the dream shifted from us talking to me being on a big ship lowered down into the ocean, swimming out alone. And when I woke up the next morning, like all of it was gone, like all the light pulled back. It felt like it was completely gone. And that was the swimming. So for months, like I was be like, I think I'm done swimming. I'm gonna meet this really cool guy. This is so cool. And then it
Mhm.
was like over the like decades, since a decade and a half since I learned that I'm gonna be swimming the rest of my life. And like that was probably an angel or a guide. I don't know. I try not to think about it too much because it's so confusing. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I'm just swimming is like learning how to live a spiritual life in the world and accept my experiences, which is what my work has been for the last since 2008. So yeah,
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
I love y'all.
It's
Thank you. I really thought it was so weird, but now that I'm sharing about it, I'm like, I guess if people want to hear these kind of stories and it makes sense to other spiritual people.
It does. It does. I wanna ask what is probably the biggest and most difficult questions, especially with you saying, "I try not to think about it because it gets
Yeah.
confusing." So, God, how with these influences, Christian, Jewish, indigenous, what
Yeah.
is your understanding of what God is?
Well, it's basically God is love. That's what I've decided. It's the light. Like, I didn't, it's so much bigger, but when I get into that space that I felt during my STE, it just feels like total light and total love. And so I do believe God is love. And I do feel very connected to the three different traditions in my family. My dad was Jewish. My mom came from a deep line of Christianity, and my stepdad was indigenous. And so I feel like really blessed and thankful to have these different belief systems kind of helping me through. But in the end, God is love, and, like, that's what healed me because I was trying to heal
Mhm.
from trauma, and honestly, when I've told said this before, like, when I start to stress out about religion and what to do about it, I'm like, "Well, that doesn't help me. That didn't help me heal from trauma. God's love
Yeah.
healed me completely," or divine love, source, creator, like, it's a
Mhm.
once you
Yeah.
have an experience of that in your life, it's just beyond any kind of mental conceptualization of it, so,
I love
Mhm.
that answer.
yeah.
I also love that you said it was confusing because having had spiritual experiences myself, even when we are doing this, that confusion comes in. And how do you deal with that? Does it help you? How do you go back to the believing? Like, do
Yeah.
you know, does that make sense?
Like, the mental to the heart, basically, because I think when I try to overthink it, like, "Who was that angel? How did that all happen? I don't understand it." But with the experience was, just I just have to get back into my heart and, like, get into that light space that I felt, which I've learned in the last 16 years that the swimming has been, like, reconnecting healthfully with that light and that love, not as an escape place, which I did for a while, but as
Mm.
something that is really balanced. So, yes, if I try to, like, deconstruct it and try to pick it apart and make sense of it, I can't because I don't think my human brain can understand what happened to me, really. My heart can, though, because I know how much it changed, so I kinda have to just get back into my heart and do my meditation practices and all that. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I think you answered some of what I'm about to ask, but this idea of balance, because here
Mhm.
you are, you're a speech language pathologist, you're a mother, you have both parts of your life. And this is what I grapple with because it's the perception that there's so much more, and yet we still need to pay bills, we still need to do laundry, we still have a tantruming child, or
Yes.
get one argument with our partner. Like, how does it inform your relationship to yourself in those very human moments?
That is such a great question.
It
I've
is.
lived that every day since my experience. For a long
Mhm.
time, the period right after it, I just tried to escape. I wanted to try to figure out how to get back to the light, and I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be a human. I lived in the woods and like thought I could figure out how to like literally walk back into heaven. That never happened. I mean, anyway, so I have learned how to balance it. What I have to do is have a practice that is a spiritual practice that I do every day that is if I don't do it, I get imbalanced. I feel like I have to have that practice and then I can go out and do my regular life. Doing spiritual work for others really helps as well. So, whatever happened to me, being of service through that. Also, I don't know, when I'm then faced with like difficult situations, like a hard boss or whatever, I try to come back into my heart space of
Mm.
love, of connection, of seeing the beautiful divine human before me, and also like just sending love to that. That's helped. And in terms of bills and money, I'm working on that. Manifesting and, like, trusting that the universe is abundant. Because during those 2 years of my experience, I didn't worry about any of that because I felt like every step I took, the path was there. I was just so aligned and so high vibe, like, it was wild. I just didn't even I got guidance that I needed to, like, move out and go somewhere else, and, like, immediately there was a place for me to move, and it was just so connected. So I try to get to that place of internal trust so that, like, the physical world can take shape around my spiritual center, which I think is the goal. But it's hard to do that because it's so easy to, get lost in the physical world.
Yeah.
It was.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You were, and this is, yeah, you were just talking about like when you first experienced it, when you first had this spiritually transformative experience, and for you that those 2 years were like amazing. And how do you like? How are they with you now? Like, I know you do these amazing readings, but in your day-to-day life, do you still carry them with you? Have you been able to pull back any of that? I'm going to use the word magic of those first 2 years.
Yeah. Thank you, Bernadette. That's a great question. And that's honestly how I do my spiritual work. And I know what I'm doing a little bit. I'm not always perfect at it, but I can feel that light space. And I remember what that light space felt like viscerally in my soul. So when I do meditations, I'm like, oh, right. Okay. This is that light space. I'm getting back to it. Yes. Or like, I feel the angel. Oh, yeah. That's what the angels felt like. And that's what it's like in this reading. I'm going to feel that and bring it here. So I do have that. Yeah. I would like I'm hoping I don't know why that happened to me. I'm 45 now. I was 26 to 27 when it happened and it ended and I was like close the door on that after I couldn't figure out how to escape to it. But it's like maybe that happened to like seed me and others for like hopefully what is the great awakening happening where we all start to live in that heavenly space and it becomes a real experience in our lives, not to escape to heaven, but to create that on the earth.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, God, I love that answer. Well,
Mhm.
with this idea that it is a discipline or a practice, I don't know, maybe discipline is the wrong word because of our connotation to it, but it is a commitment and a practice to meditate. Meditation is hard for a lot of us. Will you pull back the I don't want to say veil because that means to the other side, but will you demystify, there's another double entendre, your meditation and how you take yourself to those
Yeah.
places?
Yeah, what I do, I basically breathe light through my body. In fact, right before we got on, I was recording my meditation to put on YouTube because I just started a YouTube channel and people have been wanting to know my meditation practice. It's very simple. I just breathe light through my body. Imagine it coming through heaven, going through me and down into the core of the earth
Mm.
and like realigning me with that light and then getting into that space. And then mostly when I meditate, I'm just meditating to get guidance. I guess I should meditate to relax and completely clear my mind, but when I get back into that light space, I'm able to get a lot of clarity from my guides and angels on, um, you know, things I'm worrying about, what to do, because I get in this mental space of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, or I don't know what's going to happen, or what I'm
Yes.
stressing. And then I meditate and get into that space and receive wisdom or clarity. And it's like, I'm like so much. I can't. I really can't live without it. I can't. I can't figure stuff out on my
Mm.
own very well.
And how long does it take before you get into that zone?
Like at this point, like a minute or less.
Oh, no.
But I
Yeah.
mean, I do sometimes. It depends on what's going on. But like I'll hear like be still. I'll hear this voice like I need to get more tuned in before I can really hear any guidance that's not from my own mind. And once I think I'll put that on my YouTube for anyone watching this. And I think we all have meditation practices that might be a little different. They might work for
Mhm.
us in different ways. Some people like to completely clear their minds and just absolutely relax and move beyond thought, like real mindful
Mhm.
meditation. I think that's so powerful. I do that some, but I think just because of the nature of my spiritual experience and how it was, like that's the meditation that works for me. But I think we all have beautiful, like Bernadette was doing the rosary, and that it was
Yeah.
your meditation practice that brought so many
Yeah.
beautiful spiritual experiences into your life. So I just think we all have
Yeah.
different things that we vibe with in our physical bodies. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. I think there's so many ways, and it's so good to hear everybody's way because I think it helps validate for people that their way might be different and it works for them, or maybe it's not working and they can try something else.
yeah,
But one of the other things I was thinking about is in your day-to-day life, like I know you do this beautiful reading in the morning that you put out
yeah,
for all of us to see on social media. And it always resonates with me. It always kind of
yeah.
centers me and brings me.
Okay.
But as you go through your day, when you hit those times where your energy's changed and you don't like your energy, or you just feel like you hit a wall, do you call them in then? Like, will you ask for help then? And so it's so you do
Yeah.
keep them with you like all
I
the
just
all the
talk to
time.
them. I'm like, angels help me, or God help me with this. Yeah, because it's not like I just live a perfectly amazing life. I'm still a person with
Yeah.
stuff going on. So I just talk to the angel to ask them to help me or but yeah, and help me to find balance. Oh, breath is so powerful too when I'm having those kind of moments. I just breathing and coming back to my body is amazing. So yeah, but I
Mm.
do talk to the angels all day.
And are there recurring angels? Like, do you know them as like a committee or a team or
It's just kind of a team, basically, what they've told me, especially this year, I've started kind of giving these group messages, and they've told me they're called the healing team of light or the healing team. And it's, they'd rather be for me to call them that than like the council of light because it's more like we're on your team. It's like a little more casual,
Mm.
less like formal, and you can connect with us. And I've gotten guidance that they are kind of the same angels that were helping me during my experience. So that's kind of, it's like a whole team, but I do connect with, my guardian angel and different ones, but it's more of just a team. And it's interesting. I've gotten these little snippets of our extra sensory reality. Like I've heard Angel's song, which is amazing. I don't hear it all the time. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I wish I could hear it all the time. I can't. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get back. But it's like it sounds like a church choir singing really up high, really, really peacefully.
Mhm.
It's amazing. I've tried it. You've heard it, Bernadette? I've tried to
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I've definitely heard things. I've
like
definitely
songs and
heard,
like I'm like
yeah.
trying to get and then I've seen little angels from time to time. Or I've
oh,
had dreams where
slow your roll.
what?
You've seen little angels.
A
What did
little
you
bit, but it's almost like they're like, "Hey, guess what? This is what's happening. Go figure it out. Go have fun with that. Bye." Like, I don't see them all the time like Lorna Byrne. I live a pretty regular life, and then I'll get like small glimpses of our extra reality, and I just go back to normal or as much as I can.
and what do they look like when you get a little glimpse?
Um, I've seen rainbow angels that look like little rainbow swirls. I think
Mm.
more recently in the last couple months, it was like an archangel because it was a very, very bright, bright, bright light that's shaped like an angel with some purple and blue on it. But it was just a lot of that is just momentary glimpse in the corner of my eye. And if I weren't already spiritual, I wouldn't know what it was. I would probably dismiss it but I know what the feeling is like, which is like love and
Mhm.
peace. And then you see a small thing and then I've
Mhm.
felt angels hold my hand. I've had dreams about angels,
Mm,
kind of being in the light with me. But it's
yeah.
just like it's like a 30-second little thing, but it's so deep.
Yeah,
You feel
yeah.
it and then you just keep moving in your life. So
Yeah.
I get flashes of blue. like
Mm,
and that I see not, I mean, I used to see them within my eyes if my eyes were closed, but I see them visually outside.
yeah.
And when I see that flash, that's when I get that sense of peace.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how you know it's something more than just your brain.
yeah, and somebody actually, it was a spiritual mentor that started asking me, did I see them? Did I see these flashes? And
Mm,
at that time, I was seeing them with my eyes closed, and now it opens up. So if anybody is listening and they are seeing things that there may be something there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Comment. Comment. We'd love to hear
What I
how
was gonna
this
say is my
been with
dad
people.
was an ophthalmologist, so I know, like, in his world, it's like, "Oh, well, you definitely have, like, some kind of physical problem to be seeing lights," and that is why I think part of me deconstructed so much of that mindset to really say, "Okay, well, I did see, like, that first light that night there, it was so undeniable." But there was a huge feeling attached to it of, like, being seen, feeling loved, and, like,
Mhm,
it felt so much more real. That's another thing that happens in
mhm,
NDEs. Everything that you see in your experience is more real than this world. So,
mhm,
anyway, it's just interesting to think about, okay, the ophthalmology doctor side versus the spiritual side, and, like, they could both be true. So they're like, maybe, but it's more I've gotten so used to knowing what that looks and feels like, that I know when I'm having
mhm.
floaters that are just from my eyes, and I know when
Yeah.
I'm seeing an angel. So
Right. Right. If you
Yeah.
think about the messages that thematically, if they do come through thematically, what do the angels want from for us?
Basically, almost every time I start a reading, the angels are clapping for people. They're like, "We are so
Mm.
proud of you." Like, every, yes, it's like almost every time. I'm like, they're really proud of you. I don't know. I just see them clapping for people because they're like, people have been, if you've been doing your soul work, or even if you just think you're doing a little bit, you're not doing that great, like they see all the things that we've been presented with and how we're working on our journeys. And so they're always just really proud and thankful. They want people to know that I'm not special, that these messages and this wisdom can come is for every one of us to receive
Mhm.
ourselves. So I do my
Yes.
work because it's part of
Mhm,
my journey, but I always remind people and they remind people, "Hey, you can do this." Sometimes they tell
mhm.
people, "You can do this better than she can, so go work on it." I'm like, "Okay, thanks for that." You
And
know?
working on it is the centering in love, is
Mhm,
the taking time to meditate,
mhm.
is the focus on gratitude, forgiveness. What does working on it mean? How does
Working
one
on,
do
like,
this?
how to connect.
Yeah.
A lot of it is discerning what your thoughts are versus what
Mhm,
higher guidance is. So getting to know your own brain and how your thoughts work, and then
mhm,
feeling what the higher wisdom is, and knowing that they can
mhm,
communicate in ways that are comfortable for each of us. So I hear the voices a lot. They come into my head. It feels like a really wise voice coming into my head more than just us. But um, some people might. I also get pictures. Some people might. There's just different ways to receive it,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
like, open heart is a really big part of that. So, as I'm doing readings, I have to keep opening my heart to love, like, to keep the vibrations
Yeah.
flowing, and,
Yeah.
yeah, so here learning the difference between your thoughts and, like, higher wisdom, and keeping your heart open to love. I think those are 2 really important things, so
I I
Mm.
I love that the angels are coming through, and, I believe that they want all of us to rise, and so it for, um, I think the applause is they're applauding them because they even just showed up for a reading, because it's showing that they're open,
yeah.
and that's like the step 1 of connecting. Uh,
Yeah. I just had a
yeah.
reading this morning, and people talk about after they get a reading, they feel so connected that suddenly they're able to hear their angels really well, or they've had these beautiful spiritual experiences. They feel super aligned, and all these miracles kind of start happening. Because it's not that I'm doing that. It's like you've invited this connection back into your life that was
Mhm.
there, but they don't mess with your free will. When you get a reading or you decide you want to connect, you don't need a reading to do that. I don't want to start a cult or anything. I've been thinking about I'm not that's not, but however you decide to reconnect, like they're there, they're waiting, and then you can just turn on those miracles, like how I started in my journal that night.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Are you invigorated by them, or is it gonna be exhausting to channel these
No, it's
messages?
super invigorating. In fact, I found out the last few I do readings on Fridays and interviews, but usually like almost all day I'll do like 3 or 4 or sometimes 5, which I think is a little pushing it. But
Mm.
then like I'll try to go outside after I'm done and I like the trees will be glowing. I tried to
Mm.
go to this like meal hall, it's Denver Central Market, and like I was like everyone was glowing. I was so overwhelmed because I think I just get into this space of total light that I have to like be a little bit mindful about what I do after all my readings are done because I'm just in that vibe space. But it feels super invigorating and like I basically get so tuned in back into that space. But I yeah. So no,
Mm.
it's not
Yeah.
exhausting. I mean, no, but I do think my brain after 5 readings, I don't know about
Mhm.
that, I do get a little tired.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it feels
Yeah.
like it's generally feels like taking like a bath in light the whole day.
Mhm.
Wow.
Well, there's so much energy that comes with it, and in our normal walking around in life, we don't have that energy level, and so when you walk away from it after you've just done that, it's kind of like you are still lit up.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like then we have to be like talk about the balance coming back full circle. Like how do we be balanced in that when I'm totally back into that light, but I'm still in the human world. So it is like it's a learning process. I mean, we're not well, maybe eventually we'll all be able to live in the light all the time, but I'm living in a very human city where, there's a lot of energies. So I have
Yeah.
to balance.
Yeah. What's the difference between you have angel messages and then there are people who provide psychic readings?
Mm.
Is there a difference?
Mhm. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think I do a little bit of psychic work, but I think psychics, what I see the difference as, and this is not expert, this is just me what I do, but I think they're
Mhm.
tuning into like the field and like timelines and ways your life can go. And I think it's a little more using your mental ESP, psychic perception abilities. Maybe. When I tune in, I literally just am like, "Angels, like, I just tell me what I'm supposed to say," and it's basically like I become a conduit and I just hear angels tell me or show me, and I don't feel like I'm doing anything other than clearing my vision enough to hear them and clearing my ears enough to, like, hear and feel what they wanna say. Um, I would say psychic work to me seems a little harder, like like a lot more training, but I do think, I do some of that. I think it's all and some people who do psychic readings, they're probably doing what I'm doing too.
Mhm.
I just, I think psychic readings tend to focus more on this is my guess, and I love psychics. I just think it's more like, what should I do about my job or what should I do? And I do get some of that, but angel readings are more like, what's my soul purpose? Or like, how can I connect
Mhm.
to my spiritual gifts? It's the kind of stuff. I mean, people also want to know about relationships, but a lot of it ends up being like about your soul's journey more than like what exactly
Mhm.
you're doing to make money. They tell people you'll find it in your joy, like follow your joy. It's like very
Ah.
general towards like your soul's journey. So
Well, let's stay there because that's so interesting. So, when you think about the years of providing these messages, soul's purposes, what are some soul's purposes that people have?
a lot
Mhm.
of it is like connecting with love in a way that is natural to you and sharing that with others. So that just seems to be the main thing. And like they won't like readings I've done lately, like people want to know exactly what they should be doing. And I get glimpses of what lights them up, but usually, like, it ends up being like, just follow your joy, and that's gonna be a journey for you. Like, I can't tell them the angels aren't gonna tell them because this is about your own soul's growth in on the
Exactly.
planet. So, it's like your soul's purpose, you find it in your joy, and it's almost like this really fun process for you to go through. But I
Mm.
think, you know a lot of it has to be being of service to others and like bringing love toward to yourself and others. But people have purposes that have to do with being creative. I get sometimes people come in and I just see like they are extremely intuitive and the angels want me to tell them to please develop their intuitive gifts. Like, and they're like, oh, that's why I booked the reading. Thank you. I was like, okay, that's I'm seeing like capital letters. Like, so
Yeah.
it's interesting. But it all comes back to like using your own personal gifts to serve humanity.
Mm. It's so good.
I was thinking, in my own spiritual, I have a guide, and I'm thinking this is what you're saying, like, they won't give me all the answers. They will, um, they certainly support me, and I get hints, And I what I get mostly is confirmations. Once I have done something, they'll confirm that, yes, that's just what you were
Hmm.
supposed to be doing, kind of. Does that sound anything like, I don't, I'm just kind of curious the difference between what I'm receiving and you're receiving.
Yeah, they don't want to necessarily give complete answers to other people because it's about your soul experiencing it as a human right now. And I think they want to give you guidance. They'll give tools to help you get
Mhm.
there, but not necessarily like this is what you should be doing. Go do it. Because but there is like, you know, some breadcrumbs almost like try this I will see people that like, it does come up that people are should be writing books, so they're working on books, that kinda stuff comes
Mhm.
up, but,
Yeah.
you know, different things like that, yeah. Does
I
that
I
just
want
does that
I
answer your question a
It
little bit?
does, it does, it does.
what I hear in
I was
that is they don't want to deprive people of the human
Mhm.
experience and what they came here to learn. And part of the moving in that direction is part of what they came to learn.
Yes,
Mhm.
and that honestly comes back to, like, the time after my experience ended when I just wanted God to come take me away, and I wanted to feel all the angels again, but I had to learn how to swim. They weren't gonna tell me how to do that, I had to figure this out, it was so hard. It
I
was
know we
so,
don't
so
want to
hard.
have to learn how to swim. Just float me, hold
Just
me. I
take me
can't
away.
even float.
Yeah.
I know.
So
I
it's
know.
yeah, it's like
Yeah, it is so, and the experience of this connection and why it's so, why I love helping people just open up to it is that feeling that you do get when we are connected, even though we still have to do the hard work and do
mhm.
and I don't want to say hard work because one of the things I keep hearing is it doesn't have to be hard. That
Yes.
we
Mhm.
we make it
Yes.
hard,
Yes.
so
That's interesting.
um, but yeah,
That's
it's kind of,
interesting.
Well, I love you saying that because that's really come up for me in the last year. I was talking with a very wise soul, and speaking of books, I was writing this book, and she said it would be ideal if you could complete it by this time. And I'm like, that's going to take a lot of hard work. And she said, no, 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 reframe that. That's going to take a lot of creative intention.
Oh,
Right? Like,
that's
really take a
beautiful.
look at how you are looking at it because your relationship to the process, even cognitively, how you are
Mhm.
conceptualizing it is going to have such an impact
That's
on
beautiful.
not your just your experience, but the outcome. The
Yeah.
high vibe stuff.
Yeah. So and that was, like, getting into touch with your higher self rather than just, like, the human stress mode of how you
Exactly.
think it has to be from schooling. That's interesting. Yeah.
Exactly, like, when people are entrepreneurs, just gotta grind and sleepless nights and all of those
Mhm.
things, like, well, what if we didn't? What if it
Yeah.
could be more flow and love? And not to say that it won't be time consuming or energy consuming, but
mhm.
how might that light you up rather than deplete you, I think is
Yeah.
something worth examination.
I love
Yeah.
that, and that's what I've been shifting into is, like, this is gonna be so fun. Like, and in fact, I was thinking that today for this interview, like, when I used to start doing interviews, over a year ago, when I first started, I was like, "I'm so stressed, I'm gonna freak out." And then today I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be so fun." So it's just like, how can it be fun? Like, writing your book, it's gonna be so fun to do that, you know?
Yes.
Kind
I
of a
God,
goal.
that's so good. I think that's so valuable. I just because it resonates so deeply with me.
Yeah.
Time is going by really quickly. I wanna ask
Mm.
about something you brought up is around free will versus these psychic dreams that you would have.
Yes.
Say
So
more.
it's just an interesting question that I've been asked and I've been thinking about, like, the couple times I have a few different categories of dreams, and one of them is events that are gonna happen to me. And it's happened especially towards at the end of my experience when I lived in the cabin, I had a lot of dreams like this, or a few more than I would normally have, but I had a dream about a car accident around, like, 5 days or a week before I got into the car accident. I also had a dream about, um, a carbon monoxide poisoning situation that I got and survived. I had that dream about that 5 days before it happened,
Mm.
or a week, 3 days, I don't remember how many days, but it's like these things happened and I had the dream and, like, it's like it seemed so random, all the different little things that came together for these events to actually happen in my life, like the car in front of me, what I did, da da da, but then when it happens in real life, it's like my car is in the exact same places in the dream and, like, everything looks exactly the same, and I'm like, "How does this stuff happen?" Like, you think I could have prevented it, like, getting the carbon monoxide poisoning, I just randomly turned on the heater one night, and then it all happened exactly as in my dream, like, I don't know, what do y'all think? I'm very curious about this, like, where does free will fit into these dreams? It seems like Okay, I'll tell you what I'm kind of thinking, and then y'all tell me, like, my friend Betty Daniel, I don't know if you've had her on here, but she had all these
Oh,
pre-birth
sh
memories. Yeah, she's so awesome. But it's like,
yeah, she's
um,
amazing.
how like it's like maybe these were soul planned events that were gonna happen, and like the dreams were just letting me know, like in advance, like this was already gonna happen no matter what. And then there's also like other things in our lives that happen that seem maybe we have a little more choice over. But it's just so
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's almost, it's so funny. What it's making me think is they're like, okay, when you see these things, Rebecca, you're supposed to get out of the way,
Yeah.
but I feel like I would be driving right into that same situation. It is a
But was
weird
I
kind
supposed to
of,
get out of the way? Because it seems like I could have had done nothing to stop it. Yes, Kristin.
yeah.
So the way I see it is like a filter.
Mhm.
So when we are conscious, we have a higher filter against remembering who we are. And I
Mhm.
said this when Peter Alessandro was on our show a couple of days
Mhm.
ago. It's going to come out
Yay.
in
Awesome.
December. I know, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate when it does that. Sorry, the Zoom. Not allowed to use my fingers apparently. Um, so I shared a story that it will be a tangential way of going through this, and then I'm aware of our time.
Mhm.
Um, a couple of years ago, we had a recurring guest. His name was David Hansel. He's had a couple of near-death experiences, and he's a psychic medium and just a phenomenal, kind, loving soul. And he talked about the fact that it's like we made an agreement. Part of our higher self or our soul, he's like, I want you to imagine on the other side. He said, this is what I see. I see a meadow, I see a tree, and my soul has decided I'm going to go to sleep. Part of my
Mhm.
soul that is connected to this incarnation, this lifetime, I'm
Mhm.
going to go asleep. And when we have these moments or experiences, Rebecca, like you have, or Bernadette, like you have, and I've had them as well, where we actually remember who we are and that we are
Mhm.
asleep, and this is kind
Yep.
of like a trance, it's
Yep.
like that part of us wakes up on the other side, and it's like the connection is alive.
Right.
And so when I imagine we're going this is the story I'm telling myself about the story you shared with like, "Well, why does that come through? What am I supposed to do with it?" So when we go to sleep, the filter of the pact to
Mhm.
forget and to be asleep softens or melts or thins,
Mm.
Mhm.
and then the information in the channel is open
Mhm. Yeah.
to what we agreed to,
Right. Okay.
right? That's how I see it. It's just an energy field,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay,
Mhm.
well, now that came through and maybe, the design wasn't it wasn't supposed to, but because that
Mhm.
membrane is getting thinner and thinner with all that you're doing in your practice,
Mhm.
and then when we
Mhm.
go to sleep, so it
Yes.
avails itself to, "Oh, this is what I signed up for."
Right. I love
I
that.
don't know.
And yeah, I think that makes sense. And I didn't have psychic dreams till that light experience. They all just all started super psychic right that week, literally that week that I saw the light. So that it's just interesting. It was like it just reignited. But I don't have them all the time. Like I've been a little bit busy. And so they have been a little more dim. And I think there's ways to make them louder and softer. Living in the woods, not really doing that much, but living in the woods, I had a lot of psychic dreams, but it was almost like boring because
Yeah.
I was living in the woods. It was like, oh, like, so, um,
It
but
was
anyway,
TV for you.
yeah, it was like, okay, well, I don't know why I had a dream about that. Like, it was like my friend was like, anyway, it's interesting. But I do have them regularly, but they get louder and softer based on I think how stressed I am about how tuned in I am to that connection. So it's
Yeah.
Mhm.
interesting.
Oh, so fascinating. Oh, so fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are essentially at time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes by really, really quickly,
Okay, I'm
and
sad.
yeah.
Love y'all.
Well, you can come back
Okay.
anytime. I mean, this
Okay.
is just, I
Right.
hope, one of many conversations.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna ask you, Bernadette, before I ask any final questions. Is there anything that you have yet to ask?
Tell me. Um, I guess the question I have is, do you feel you are still opening? Do you feel it's growing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and this all started when I was trying to heal from trauma, and I feel like the work I'm doing now is healing me even more deeply. So I feel like I'm still opening, but I'm also getting really aligned with loving myself enough to share my truth, to face
Mm.
my fears, to really be present and like vulnerable and authentic with who I am. So that to me feels like the biggest work now as like this is continuing my healing arc of healing all the way, which
Mhm.
but yeah, I definitely feel like I'm able to connect more to the light. I feel those light frequencies more and more the more I meditate and get tuned in. a lot of it is just about love, self-love right now for me though. So
Mm.
That was what I was gonna ask about, is self-love, because that is such a
Mhm.
recurring theme. Is there anything else that you can say about cultivating self-love, especially with this balance of spirit versus our very human existence?
Gosh, it's such a huge journey for me, but just knowing that you're completely seen and loved by the creator, by source, that really does help. It's such a humble, simple love that is exists for you that does help me to cultivate self-love, and I hope it will help anyone listening. Um, we were perfectly created to be exactly as you are. Um,
Mm,
and so anytime someone says anything differently, just kind of get tuned in back to that really simple, profound love for you. That really helps. I've also been doing some of that mirror work. I just finished the mirror workbook by Louise Hay and looking at yourself in the mirror and loving yourself. Like that's intense, but I would recommend doing that.
yeah, and if
Mm.
I that's beautiful, and if I could add on, because for me, I noticed this has been hard, there are the places in ourselves that are shadows,
Yeah.
right? And so when we don't rise to who we wanna be in a moment,
Hmm.
we're impatient
Oh
or
yeah.
right? Those are the places that most desire self-love, that we
Hmm.
don't turn our back on even the parts of us that we'd rather not take a look at.
Mhm.
That's really important. And it's actually really important to think about that because I've read and I believe that all attack is a cry for help. So if you've acted that way or someone else has acted that way, that's just that really wounded part that's just crying out for love. And if you can bring it some
Absolutely.
love, it's so hard
Mhm.
though. But nobody,
Mhm.
we're here to be human and learn. As long as we're
Mhm.
trying to learn and like be aligned with that love, I don't
Yeah.
think we can be too hard on ourselves.
And one of the things that I get is that we're all forgiven. Like so many of us hold on to things that we're not proud of in our past, and
Yeah.
that forgiveness is not is open to everybody. So it
Yeah.
is to let go of those things that you feel.
Yeah.
Um,
So true. I love that. That's
Love
beautiful.
that too. That
Thank
feels
you.
like a really wonderful place to stop. So people are gonna wanna know about your YouTube. They're gonna wanna know about your socials. They wanna know about how to schedule a reading. Can you share all of that, please?
Yes. It's all under my name, Rebecca Kastl, and part of why I do that, I was bullied really bad as part of my trauma, and I hated my own name. So I
Mhm.
use yes, I use my name as part of my healing practice.
Right.
So anyway, you can find me at RebeccaKastl.com. YouTube is Rebecca Kastl, and all my socials are Rebecca Kastl. So, oh, is it doing that automatically? That's so cool.
That's our little angel, Courtney, on the other side.
Oh, thanks, Courtney. I was like, "Is that AI?" It's a person. Yay, even better. Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, so all and yes, that's where you can find me. Also, the one thing I also write a Substack called The Accidental Mystic. Um,
Mm.
I'm like really, I didn't want to talk about this for a long time, but since I've started talking about it, I'm just trying every platform and we'll see which ones I keep using. But right now, I'm just everywhere. So find me.
That's so good. So good. Thank you so much for joining us. Always such a pleasure, and I
Thank
learned
you.
so much.
I love
yeah,
y'all.
we
You're
can't
so
wait to come
beautiful.
back
Yeah.
again.
Yay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank y'all. Take care.
How I Made It Through is produced and distributed by EIQ Media, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on overcoming adversity, leadership, mental health, entrepreneurship, spiritually transformative experiences, and more.